Today we're going to work on pasta and grains. Mainly today we're going to do some pasta. We're going to make some homemade pasta. We're going to talk about it and the different ways of making it, and then we're going to actually make a dish tonight for a fellow streamer of mine, Rex. His birthday's today, so I told him I would make him a dish. So he asked me what he wanted. I asked him what he wanted, and he said shrimp. So we're going to make a shrimp piccata with pasta. I'm a welcome. Yes, you are a welcome. Welcome, Gabtilla, to your stream. So that's what we're going to do today. For me. Oh, the piccata? Yeah, we're making the piccata for Rex, but Gabtilla's the one who's going to eat it. So she'll be able to tell Rex what it was like. I'm allergic to shrimp, so I can't eat it. So I have to cook it. I got to kind of cook it blind, but I've cooked it enough to know. So piccata, the dish that we're making tonight, is a French dish adopted by the Italians, but originally it's a French dish. And yes, Gabtilla's going to eat the piccata in your honor, Rex, if you're in here. I don't know if Rex is even in here yet. He said, I'm going to be there because it's my birthday and you're going to make me a dish. So we're hoping that he shows up. So, pasta. Pasta has been around for as long as, the only thing that's been around longer is actually rice, which is the grains. Whenever we go into that, we'll talk about the different types of grains. And today we're going to stick to pasta. There's so many different types of pasta. There's your wheat pastas, your gluten-free pasta, your egg pasta. We're going to make an egg pasta today. We're going to use our handy-dandy KitchenAid. But it can also be made and going to ship it to him. Yeah, we're going to ship Rex a plate full of chicken or shrimp piccata, just for him to look at, because if he eats it, it'll probably kill him. So we're going to in a Ziploc bag with a stamp. Exactly. Yes. And all the postal workers from here to Rex's house are going to love us because their vehicles and them are going to smell like basically slow putating shrimp. So we are going to, like I said, we're going to start with pasta today. We're going to make a simple egg pasta. Now, if you go and look on the internets and you see a pasta recipe, the pasta recipes are kind of complicated. They're way more complicated than they should be because a simple egg pasta should be simple. So I found a recipe of my own after tinkering around with it that kind of made it really easy to do. And it's easy to, if you have a KitchenAid roller, these little things right here that roll out the pasta, that's great. If not, you can use a hand roller. I suggest if you really like pasta a lot and you really want to make it a lot, this is worth an investment because this saves you a lot of wrist and a lot of arm. Because to actually roll out pasta, because remember we're making a flour pasta, so immediately when that flour gets wet, the gluten strands in the flour start to form. So every time you roll it out, it'll just snap right back. And then you roll it out and you snap right back. It takes a lot of rolling out to get that stuff to relax so that it's nice and thin. Because the thinner, remember, the pasta expands almost double in size. So you think you have it thin enough. Then you go to cook it and it swells up and it's really super thick. Great for dumplings, like in chicken and dumplings, which we're probably going to do this week because of that being a pasta dish. So all the dishes we do will be related to the pasta that's in it. We'll do, I think Friday we're doing a dessert because I thought at the end of the week, let's just do a dessert. It probably won't have to do with the pasta. We might make a rice pudding just because we're doing grains, just to kind of tie it all together. But somebody requested a cheesecake, so we're going to make a guaranteed no crack cheesecake. And that doesn't mean I don't put crack in it. It just means when you pull it out of the oven, it won't crack like most cheesecakes do. Because a lot of cheesecakes, you make them, and then they put that filling on top of it. And then they usually put like cream cheese on top of it to hide the crack. So if we make it right, then it should come out and be just beautiful. I gotta find my springform pans, and that's about it. It's a pretty simple recipe. It just takes time. It takes right around from start to finish about 4 hours to make a good cheesecake, and then it has to cool forever before it can be eaten. So we'll make it Friday. Like whenever I do my Thanksgiving dinners, I make my cheesecakes first because I want them to be chilled. So whenever it's time to eat, you have a nice chilled cheesecake. So we are going to make some pasta. So if you guys have any questions, if you're here, if you're hanging out, if you're lurking, that's cool. I don't mind. But we're going to get into our pasta. Pasta originated in Asia, believe it or not. And then it was kind of traveled all over the world, and different cultures adopted it into their food. So that's why you got this multitude of pastas. The Italians kind of took off with it. They're the ones who started with the different shapes. And each shape of a pasta, believe it or not, has a specific purpose. It's not just because it's cool or funky looking or the kids will eat it. Each pasta piece, like the rigatoni, each one of them have a reason for their shapes. It's not just a random grab bag. So whenever you do make a pasta dish and you want like the sauce to really be strong, then you get the pasta with the ridges on it so that the pasta sticks to it. And fresh pasta, as opposed to store-bought pasta, which tomorrow we're going to be dealing with our dried pastas and our store-bought pastas. But today I just want to start it off with a fresh pasta. But they all have their qualities. The dried out, the store-bought pasta is usually I'm going to say this word right, semolina flour and an egg, and sometimes there's semolina and water. But that's why it's dark yellow, and that's why it dries out really nicely, because egg pasta, you can dry it out and freeze it, but it always turns out white. It doesn't have that yellow pasta color. That's just because it's a different flour. We're using all-purpose flour again. Again, when we go into our actual flour, talking about that. When we go into that week, then we'll talk about the different types of flour. But for this week, all we're going to do is concentrate on the pasta itself. Like I said, as we get into it, then we'll start using other ingredients. I'm going to try and make a dish every single night with the product that we're making, just so you guys can see it all tied together. And then we'll start stepping back and pull in some vegetables, and then we'll pull in some of the mother sauces. Kind of help build your library up so that you have the ability to just keep going forward with your pasta and your main dish skills that you're slowly acquiring day by day. So, I gotta see if I got all-purpose flour that isn't all-purposely already open. I probably have enough here. It's Monday. I hope you guys all made it through the week. And back to the grind, as they say. Now, until we get into the baking portion, I'm kind of staying away from scales. But once we get into the baking portions, everything's going to be scaled. But for practical purposes, this is a great recipe that you could do at home with just a measuring cup, because it's super simple. So, we're going to take our bowl with a cutting board and roll it around. There we go. Tech's going to finally catch up. He's also on a delay. I know there's a camera delay between me and the internet, but there's a tech delay too. He's like, shut up. So we're going to take 1 cup of flour. I use all-purpose flour, like I said. We're going to take a cup of, we'll use 2 cups of flour. How's that? Because it's simple. It's all measured off of it's all measured off a cup. So I'm going to get a cup of flour. I'm going to dump part of it in the sink. 1 level cup of flour. So there, I got my cup of flour. I put it in my bowl. Okay. Oh, I said 2, didn't I? See, I'm already lying. You guys aren't even catching me. So hopefully you guys would catch me making all my mistakes. 2 cups of flour. And I've got a fettuccine, which is the flat noodle. That's what we'll be pressing it into, because I like fettuccine. I don't want all the crap delay. Oh, lame. Oh, Dana's talking shit over text to me. So, that's cool. So, for every cup, here's the simplicity of this recipe. For every cup of flour, it's 1 egg. So if you make 2 cups of flour, that's 2 eggs, and so on and so forth. So that's all you have to remember on how to make pasta, is 1 for 1. 1 egg to 1 cup of flour. So I put 2 cups of flour. So I'm going to take myself my handy dandy fork, And we'll make a little tunnel in the middle. And the reason that you make the tunnel in the middle is because you don't want the egg, the white part, to stick to the outside of the bowl, because then you have to scrape it off. So we make a little hole in the middle. Crack our egg on a flat surface. Now the whole egg's going in there, so you don't have to worry about these are stinking cracking eggs. But yeah, it exploded in my hands. Not cool, man. Crack it, put it in the middle. Now, you could put this in a food processor or whip it around. We're probably going to add a little bit of water because not all eggs are created equal. So if we need a tiny bit of water, it's usually 1 tablespoon. So it's 1 tablespoon of water to, or in this case, it'd be 2 tablespoons of water to 2 eggs to 2 cups of flour. So it's always 1, 1, 1, no matter how much pasta you make. And usually 1 cup of flour is enough pasta if it's just like spaghetti, or if it's something that is pasta based, then usually 1 cup of flour will feed like 1.5 people. So 2 cups of flour should give me enough pasta to feed 3 people. So it's 1, 1, 1 equals 1.5 people. So all I'm doing right now is I'm working flour into the egg, just so I can get it just to where it's stuck together enough to where I can pull it out of this bowl. So I'm just mixing the egg up. There, you can see it there. And I'm pushing flour into it because I just want it to all come out in the same thing. Mixing the egg into the pasta. That's it. That is pasta. Well, that is all the ingredients in a pasta. You don't need anything else. Because the eggs, which is the liquid, will combine the gluten in the flour so that it makes sturdy little pasta sheets, because that's what we're aiming for. Now, there's a very important thing when you make homemade pasta. After, and now I'm just taking my hand in there, I'm going to start squishing it together. After you basically bring this into a ball, you want to cover it and let it rest, because you've got to let that gluten calm down and relax. If you don't let it relax, it'll start turning into rubber bands. And then, see what I'm doing right now is I'm pinching it and pulling it apart because I want it to get all the moisture out of the majority of the moisture was in the middle. So I'm just kind of pushing that dry flour into the moisture parts of the flour that has more egg into it. What even you ever make gluten-free pasta, you have any suggestions for what kind of flour to use? Gluten-free pastas, it usually have to use all the ingredients like the xanthan gum, because you got to have a binder. And so with the flour itself that you use, where there's tapioca or there's tapioca, there's all kinds of gluten-free flours, but you need the binder, which is the xanthan gum, to make it actually turn into a solid mass. Otherwise, it just stays a powder. So that plus egg, that's my best suggestion. You know, if you're really fond of a certain type of gluten-free flour, then I would absolutely suggest. Hey, what's up, James? Welcome. Welcome to the party. We're making pasta. I've got my hands knee deep in this bowl. I am making pasta. Look at this. You missed the beginning of it, but basically, a simple homemade pasta recipe is 1 cup of flour, 1 egg, and then a little bit of water, usually a tablespoon of water, because you can see right now, I know, you see right now it's still kind of crumbling apart, so I want to get a little bit of water in there just to help bring that together. So I'm going to start with a tablespoon of water, but I do not want to go over 2 tablespoons, because remember, we put 2 cups of flour, and then we also put 2 eggs. So it's 1, 1, 1, and then you expand from there. If you want to make 5 cups of flour, 5 eggs, and 5 tablespoons of water to make pasta, but it's just to the point right now where, because there's water in our flour, so really depends on the where you're at and how old your flour is and where you store it. So sometimes it will come together, but this just has a little bit of a crumble to it. So I'm going to add a little bit of water. Like I said, I'm going to start with 1 tablespoon. because this is a gradual part. Put my tablespoon in there. Because if you just throw it in there, then like if I threw 2 whole tablespoons of water in there, if it gets too wet, it's not good. So that's pretty good right there. It's starting to come together. It's slightly sticky. It's starting to turn into a ball. But so we're gonna squish this down. Like I said, once we start smashing it to the bottom of the bowl, it should take all the pasta out of there with it, all the flour. Okay. Okay, there's our bowl of pasta. But you can see that it's different colored. If you look at it, it's got kind of darker areas and lighter areas. So we're just going to start. What you do is you take it and you push it down and you use the wrist, that part of your hand, and you push and then you turn it. You're just trying to work the equalness out in the water and in the pasta so that it's equally wet. So, got up this morning. What did I do? I went to the grocery store. I hung out for a little bit. Started to get ready for the stream. I hope Rex comes in because I'm making Rex his dinner he requested. So, I hope he comes in, or otherwise I will be butthurt if he doesn't show up. Yes, like a granny. Exactly. Soft. Just be patient. You don't have to beat it up. Because remember, the more pressure you put into this, the more the gluten will form and the tougher your pasta will be. And the nice thing about homemade fresh pasta is it's nothing like store-bought pasta. So it cooks really fast, so it's done almost instantaneously. I mean, you barely get it in the water, and you're stirring it a couple, maybe 45 seconds, and you pull it out, and it's done. So that's pretty good right there. So I like to make mine into a little flat thing, and I'm gonna cover it. Get some cling wrap. Now the reason that we cover the pasta is because we don't want air to get onto it because it will make a crust on the outside. So we want to cover it to avoid the air. So that's what we're doing. Covering the pasta. And we want to let it rest. If you don't let it rest, then the gluten doesn't have a time to calm down. And also, by letting it rest, what it will do is it will help the water soak into the rest of that dry flour. So, let your pasta rest, and then you can go on to your next thing. So you start by making your pasta. And I always tend to make it the day of. I mean, you can technically make it and put it in the fridge, but it doesn't last that long. And it's so easy to make and so quick. So I would just do it and make it day of. It's super simple, like I just showed you. So then we's going on to, like I said, we're just gonna make one dish today. I'm kind of trying to focus my streams onto specific, this is what we're doing today. So it's not so broad, because we have a lot of time. We have a lot of subject matter to go over too, so I want to give it the most subject matter I can give, and I want to throw some other stuff in there so you guys are like, hey, I learned about shrimp today, which is what you're going to do, is learn about shrimp today. And also, to pace my stream out, I'm going to do some dishes while I'm running it. Now I know the sounds like crap right now, because the microphone is right by me. It sounds like a waterfall, but that's okay. Rinse my bowl out. Put my bowl aside. Okay, I got tiger shrimp from the grocery store. Now, all shrimp, no matter where you get it, unless you buy it specifically from like those shady pickup trucks that are on the side of the road, when the shrimp is out there and it's being caught, they freeze it on deck. So all the shrimp that you see in your grocery store that look like this, 99% of them are frozen. They're pre-frozen out on the ship. They come in frozen. So even the stuff in the grocery store that's all laid out pretty in the display, most of that is just taken out of the freezer and thawed out and laid out in the display. So I don't mind frozen shrimp. Like, it's less expensive than the fancy stuff. Now, if they have fresh live shrimp, that's a different story. Obviously, they never froze those little guys. But I've never been able to taste the difference. I really haven't. Even though when I could eat shrimp, now I can't, so I don't get to taste the difference anyway. So I don't care. I'm just kidding. I don't care. I don't care what it tastes like, so I'm not going to eat it. And then put my eggs away. So what's everyone up to today? Nothing? All hanging out? All vegging out my screen? But we're going to do shrimp now, of course, just like every other protein and every other food we have to deal with. We gotta avoid cross-contamination. So what we're gonna do is, what I like to do is I get a specific, now this thing's worn out, it's old, it's my old cutting board. It's like I came over on the Mayflower with this cutting board. It's old. But I'm going to use it just to avoid any cross-contamination with my nice cutting board that I cut vegetables on. So we're going to take our shrimp. Now these have been deveined, which I didn't notice until just now. So they've already, where are you guys at? They've already cut right here. They've already cut along here to take the vein out. But if you have to devein the shrimp yourself, if you peel it, like I like a little bit of, because we're doing the piccata, so I want to kind of take some of that off. I want to leave the tail on for decoration. So whenever we plate up, we can put the normal piccata, the shrimp in there, but I'd like to keep some for decoration. So we just pull off the back, the shell from around the, and we're going to save that to make a stock. We're going to make a fish stock out of it. So we're going to take another bowl. Shh. Quiet, bowls. I was excited about the stream today. Got up, got ready. So I put my shrimp over here. So you guys are going to watch. I usually grab from the little legs. You look down here, grab the legs and pull. And if the shrimp should come right off like that, and then pinch the tail to take that off, but I want to save the tails because I'm going to use some of these for the decorative purposes. So, for the top of the plate. Nobody wants to shell their own shrimp while they're eating, but it's always nice to have a little contrast. What, James? Yes, I love old stuff. That is correct, James. You are correct. James wins. So I'm peeling off the shell, putting it in there, saving the shell. I'm gonna make a stock out of it. Now this stuff, the shrimp stock, I have to collect a lot of these shells, but I don't have enough to really constitute making stock yet. So I will just put them in a Ziploc and I will freeze them. And then when I collect it up enough, then I can come back and I can make a stock out of it. And realistically, you can make a shrimp stock or you can make like a seafood stock, which is just using all the other parts of the fish, or if you get fish, and then, lobster shells and all that other stuff, you can use that in your seafood stock. So then now we're to the point where we're not going to need any more of the tails. So there's my decorative shrimp. That. I got dry mouth today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the butt of the shrimp back by the tail, and I'm going to just push, and it should push the shrimp right out. And then you'll have that. I'm going to save that. I'm going to do the same thing. Peel. I just pinch like this. Oops, see how it jumped out of my hand? Put that over there. And pinch that back end. Pinch in the middle. Should come right out. Pretty simple. But I know that a lot of people are like, I know how to do that. But there are people that just don't. They just have never done it. So I always like to over-explain everything so that you all get all the knowledge you could possibly ever want. So I hope it doesn't bore you when I over-explain stuff, but I think it's just due that I do that. So, working it. We stopped playing music because one, I think it was just not necessary, and two, they kept copywriting us on YouTube. They're like, you can't, they like flagged it. We did one video and they flagged it like 30 times for copyright. So I was like, you know what, we just won't play music. It's better than dealing with them. So it's quiet in here, but I don't ever shut up anyway, so it doesn't matter. You all have to listen to my smooth, sweet voice all the time, right? That's a good trade-off, I think. So like I said, we're just peeling the shrimp, pulling it back in, pulling the shrimp right out. Now, even though we started out by thawing the shrimp out in water, we're still going to rinse off the shrimp after we pull all the shell off. Because the last thing you want your guest to do is bite into one of the shells of the shrimp, because it is like a toenail. And we'll turn them off to your dish right now. What are you saying no? What are you saying no for? Why are you saying no? You like that little face? You like that? That's my little VIP sun face. So, there we go. That's enough for one dish. Because that's really... The only person who's going to eat this is... Well, are you eating some, Dana?
Maybe.
Oh, well, I got a definite maybe from Dana. You gotta see how it's put together before he judges that. So, I'm gonna save my shells to make stock with and put that aside. And like every good chef or every good home cook, I'm gonna wash my hands. Now I took that bowl that I had, and I'm just gonna give it a quick wash out so that I don't have any little pieces of shell or anything in it. Let me take the shrimp. I'll put it in my wash bowl. I'm going to take my shrimp that has the leg or the tail on it and put that in the wash bowl. You see, even after rinsing it out, where you at? Even after rinsing it out, you still get stuff. And we don't want stuff in our dish. We want it to be as clean and flavorful as possible. So, James, what are you up to? What have you been doing? You've been hanging out all day waiting for this? James loves me. James loves me, so he's been hanging out. Keeps screaming that up from the basement. Is it 6 o'clock yet? Is it 6 o'clock? Well, it's 6 o'clock, James, so it's time. So now, remember what I told you guys at the beginning of the week, every week? And I told you cooking is just controlling the water in the food. Well, right now my shrimp are wet, so it's going to be really hard to get a nice color on them unless they're dry. So what I want to do is I want to take my shrimp, clean the house, and listening to you stream it. All right. Clean house. That's good, James. Clean that house. Clean it. So I'm going to take the cutting board. Different cutting board. The red one's back there. I want to lay it out. Hey, I can use a... Actually, let's do this. Screw that cutting board. Cutting board's for cutting. Take a sheet pan, and I want to lay my shrimp out on it so that they can dry out. Because like I said, oil and water just create steam. So, I'm going to lay my shrimp out and let them dry. I'm going to separate my ones with the tail on one side. This dish is for a friend of mine who said he was going to be in here. I'm making it for his birthday. He's like, that's what I want, so I made this. So, putting this out. Oh, let's put our tailed shrimp over here. And this is enough. Usually, whenever you're making, every time you make food for people, like normal sized people, not people that eat a lot, but just normal sized people, the protein should be about the size of the palm of your hand. So your protein should fit in that part of your hand. Okay, and gauging from this, if I look down, I just physically look at the palm of my hand, and then I look at the shrimp, I know that I've got enough for at least 2 dishes of shrimp. 3 if it was normal people. So that's how I always judge food. the portion control says that your protein, which would be your steak or your chicken, or should be 4 ounces is the standard. 6 is the Texas standard. So if it's 6 ounces or 4 ounces is normally the amount of a protein that you should have in a meal. So that just so you know. So I've got about 2.5 people's worth of food right there. And I can't eat shrimp, so I'm gonna find half a person to eat the rest. So I lay out my shrimp. I'm gonna take a little paper towel and I'm gonna put it over the top. So yeah, I was at the grocery store today. I always like going to the grocery store because I like to listen to the conversations of people and the things that people believe about food. Sometimes makes me almost drop what I have in my hands. And I always find it funny because they'll say stuff like, it's usually one person asking another person, hey, why is this like this? And they'll give them some weird answer that I almost spin around because I'm like, what? What'd you just say? Because a lot of the times what they're saying is just misinformation. And that's what I'm here to do, folks. I'm here to clear up misinformation. So whenever somebody asks you, hey, why does this do that? You can say, I don't know. Or you can watch my streams and then you'll find out why. And you'll be like, I know. Listen to this. You can talk your little story. And they'll be like, wow, you know it. So I'm trying to help James do. Become a superhero when it comes to cooking. So check our pasta. See, now you see the difference? Look at the cutting board on the camera. Let me show you guys this. See that? It's like, see how you push it in and it springs back a little bit? That's kind of right where I want it to start running it through the machine. Now, if I was going to roll this out, I would leave it longer because I want more water to permeate the dry parts. But that's pretty good for the machine itself. But we're going to let it rest a little longer while we prep the rest of the meal. Yes, he can make Honey Nut Cheerio piccata. Oh, that's James's jam. Honey Nut Cheerios. I use my job low key to help with follow. I work for a cable company, and when they say the game, I'm like, I'll watch my stream and see. Oh, exactly. Dang that. That was funny. So we're gonna add a little garlic to our piccata. Now piccata, like I said, it's a French sauce and adopted by the Italians. Piccata means, it's the feminine word for larded, and usually it means you take either a fish, or in the case of America, you take a chicken and you fillet it, and then you cook it in lard, and then you cover it with some sort of a sauce. That's basically the definition of a piccata. But piccata has become to be known as the lemon butter caper sauce, and you can put it on. It's a form of a velouté, so it's a clear sauce, and like I said, it's got exactly what it lemon butters and capers. So we got our little garlics. We're gonna work back on our knife skills again. Chop that nasty little end piece off because that doesn't cook. Chop that nasty little piece off because it doesn't cook. And guess what I'm doing? Chopping that nasty piece off because that doesn't cook. Now I like my garlic pieces big and flat, so I'm gonna take my knife and I'm gonna go back to the cutting edge, and I'm gonna start sewing machine cutting the garlic thin as I can get it. So, like I said, I'm going slow. The knife never leaves the table. You're just pushing through the product. It's the same thing with a carrot or a chunk of garlic. And if you let this simmer in the piccata, that garlic will turn sweet. So, I wish you had a closer camera, but you don't. So you just have to trust me that it's thin. So, got some nice pieces of garlic. And then usually, and I always like, whenever I make food, I like to judge it on how many people I'm feeding. So if I have shrimp, I know I have enough for two and a half people. right? So here, just no volume. Oh, okay. All right, James. So we can't talk crap to James. James doesn't have his volume on because he's at work. Thank you, James. He couldn't hear me. But what I like to do is I like to envision how many people I'm feeding, and then as I'm putting my product together, it will let me know how much of that product can also go with the dish. So like garlic, I know right there, that's enough garlic. You separate that. That's pretty much 2 people's worth of garlic. So if you start to visualize recipes and if you start to visualize food in that way, because then now I can say, well, I'm feeding a bunch of people that love garlic, so I can add more garlic to it. But it will keep a gauge in what you're doing so that you're able to not just blindly follow a recipe, but you can make those slight tweaks and adjustments to it because you know how many people you're feeding. Or at least you should, unless you're into surprise cooking. But I like garlic, and I believe Gabtilla, who's eating this dish, also likes garlic. So we're gonna add just a little bit more. So I got like 2.5 things of garlic in there. So, like I said, if you have any questions, or if you're interested in following us, please click the little heart button. I think we're at 69 followers right now, which is pretty good. We've only been doing this 2 weeks now. This will be working on our 3rd week. So I'm pretty happy. Everyone says that's pretty good. So I'm excited. Never done this before. Never streamed. Never been on Twitch. Didn't get on until 2.5 weeks ago. So this is pretty exciting. I'm enjoying it. It's fun. So now I got my garlic. Got me a handy dandy garlic holder. Put my garlic in there. And so now so far we have the garlic. And then we have the shrimp, which is drying out on my paper towels, like I said, so that they're gonna be nice and dry. So when they hit that hot oil, they'll actually it'll have the Maillard effect on it. It'll make it crispy. If you just rinse off your shrimp and throw them in the frying pan, it steams them because the minute water and oil hit, it turns the water into steam and it will steam them. It's just like whenever you put them too close together in a pan, they'll steam because all the water that's inside the shrimp is leaving the shrimp and it's just steaming the shrimp sitting next to it. So I like all my products. If I want a nice crusty, see, I'm making up words now, guys. I'm drunk. No, if I want a nice crispy outside, then I want to take and dry off my yes, crispy. I want a nice dry product. So when it hits that pan, it's really nice and crispy. You happy? So, what does piccata consist of? I don't even think I have. I don't know what that's. No, I have. I do. So, piccata consists of butter, lemon, and caper. So you all know what butter is. I always use unsalted butter. Hey, Cherry, how are you? Welcome to the stream. I haven't seen you in a while. It's been a long while, actually. Welcome. We're making shrimp piccata with homemade pasta. Because we're starting our pasta week now. So, super excited. Gonna get a lot of information to go over. But I figured I was gonna back off of and I'm gonna make more because everybody that watches the stream wants to see food. They don't really necessarily want to see, the same make this. But I think building that initial first 2 weeks has given us a good base to run from. Because we're always gonna go back and re-explain everything. So every night I'm gonna try and make a dish out of whatever it is we're making. So tonight we're making shrimp piccata. Did I say chicken? I meant shrimp. Because a friend of mine, Rex, it's his birthday, so I asked him what it is he want me to make on stream, and he said some type of shrimp. So I was like, got it, shrimp piccata. So we're going to use a linguine noodle with pressed out. As soon as I made my pasta dough. Simple recipe for the pasta dough. It's 1 egg, 1 cup of flour, 1 tablespoon of water. So it's always 1, 1, 1. Then you just mix it together and you cover it and let it sit down. So if you want to make, if you want to make 10 cups of flour, and every single cup of flour feeds about 1.5 people. So I've got enough here for 3 people. This is about pasta. If the pasta is the main dish, this is enough pasta for 3 people. So every cup's 1.5 people. And every time you do a recipe or every time you work into making a meal, always think about the guest count because it will help you gauge everything going into the recipe. Even if you're reading a recipe, always think of guest count. So then you could start to break down, like, I know that this is 2.5 people's worth of garlic. I know that this is 2.5 people's worth of shrimp. And I know that this is 3 people's worth of pasta. Yes, or 2 people who like food, exactly. Okay, you should always make a little bit over. In the catering industry, it's anywhere from 10 to 15% over. So if you have, 200 guests, then you always add 10 to 15% over, just in case, Aunt Edna invited her new boyfriend who was a little sketchy. They didn't know if he's going to show up or not. And he shows up, and of course, he's the big eater. So you got to make sure that you have that extra little bit. So I'm aiming for 2 people. So everything I'm making today is a 2.5 person recipe. Okay. What is that? What is that? A grocery cart? What is that? Is that a grocery cart, James? You can't hear me anyway. I don't even know why I'm talking to you because you can't even hear me. That looks like a grocery cart. That's what I'm gonna call that. So butter. Remember, here's our recipe. Who's the people? I'm the people. Well, yeah, whoever you're inviting over, not you people. Oh, okay. You people, my friends that I invite over for piccata, shrimp piccata. So, you people. So we got lemons. Now, usually whenever you juice a lemon, there's 2 ways to do it. They say roll it on the counter or put it in the microwave. It helps. It helps it make it easier to squeeze, but it doesn't really give you a lot more lemon. But you'll see them do it all the time. Or you see them do this. But realistically, I've never been like, I want to put these all in the microwave and then I want to roll them out. That's just a lot of busy work, I think. Makes your kitchen smell great. Makes your hands smell great. So I guess if you're playing with garlic, give those a roll. So then your hands won't stink like garlic. So we're going to mise en place, which means everything in its place. And if you're a good, efficient home cook, then mise en placing is your go-to so that you're not stuck being worried about, oh my gosh, I forgot to put this in it. So if we plan out how we're going to make this, it makes for easier time. Now you can either run this to a strainer or you can turn it up, and just squeeze it and get it out, and then the seeds stay on top for the most part. Every now and then one sneaks on, but we're going to squeeze that. And you can also have a lemon squeezer, which I currently don't have. But each half of a lemon is going to be enough lemon juice for 1 person for their piccata. So again, always look at it as how many people am I feeding. Throw away all my seeds. Come back, squeeze the rest. And that's on a normal lemon. Some are drier. And right now lemons are in season, so we're good. They're really good and juicy for the most part. And when you pick out lemons, you want to pick out lemons they feel heavier than they look. That's always a good lemon. You don't want the skin super thick. Gross. How do you feel about Oprah's way of getting... Oprah's way of getting more lemon juice by what? By using her mouth? Is that what she puts it in? What? I don't know about that. That sounds terrible. So if you go into somebody's kitchen and they're chewing on a whole lemon so that they can give you more lemon juice, leave. That's my only solution to that. And they can't go, hey, Oprah told me to do this because they have a whole freaking lemon in their mouth. They said in her show. Gross. No. Sorry, Oprah. I love you, but that doesn't make sense. All right, James, you settle down. Because that has nothing to do with cooking. James, you dirty, dirty, dirty. So I've got enough lemon there for basically, I've probably got about 2 tablespoons of lemon. So I want some backup, because once I make the piccata sauce, I want it to go from what I'm making to my dish. Yes, James, you is right. James. You're lucky I killed my bot, but I don't think it would get you for. I heard of grapefruiting too, but yeah, exactly. We went from Oprah eating lemons to grapefruiting. I'm sure it's not the same. James. So I'm squeezing my lemons out. Like I said, whenever the seeds come up, I just catch them with the top. Oh, see, one got away. Reach in there and get you back out. Now, this is a lot of lemon juice, but it's good. Because like I said, I don't want to run out of lemon juice while I'm making the piccata sauce. Because the piccata sauce, that's not a simmer sauce. Dang, I popped another one out. You literally make it and then you put it on a dish and you serve it. So the lemon has to be made ready to go. So I'm actually making a little bit more lemon, squeezing some more out for the piccata. It was weird because another person was streaming today and they made chicken piccata. And that was just a coincidence. I thought that was weird. And it seems to do that. It's like the ebb and flow of Twitch. Somebody makes something, you turn over, and the other person's making the same thing. So I found that cool. This last lemon, now you notice the difference in this one? It's a lot more rinier. It's a lot harder, and I'm going to get a lot less juice out of it. But just because it's harder. Now I should get Oprah to chew on it so that I can get all the lemon juice out of it. Chewing on lemons? That's great. I love it. Did she like fit a whole lemon in her mouth? Because that seems insane. Whole lemon? That's crazy. So, got our lemon. We got our handy dandy butter. And now, capers. Capers are little. Everyone's like, I don't know what a caper is. It looks like little space alien eggs. But all caper is it's the unbloomed bud of the caper plant. So it's a flower bud is what it is. So if these stay on the plant, they'll pop out into little flowers. But for us, we get them in the store in our little can. They're usually pickled, and they look like that. They look like little, and that's what they taste like. They taste like really, really, really sour, peppery pickles. That's what a caper tastes like. I love capers, I really do. And it's one of those things that if you eat a caper by itself, because the reason that this sauce works so well is the main component in it is butter. So you've got your fat, remember what we talked about earlier last week, you have your fat combating your acid so that it balances. So if we have too much fat, then we put acid to it and it starts to go this way. Same thing with, we have capers, and we have butter, and we have lemon juice, and we have a little bit of chicken stock to thin it out. But basically, we're balancing out that acidity from the lemon juice and the capers. That's why there's butter in it. So I like the pickling juice that's in the capers because it just adds a little depth to the lemon juice. So a lot of people will strain these. What are capers? Capers are flower buds. Here, let me show you. So on a caper plant, they have these little buds that, let's see if I can show them to you. See that? Right in front of me there. So they're little flower buds. And they're pickled, and then you usually, and most of these are used a lot in French cooking. Like everything's got a caper in it. Yeah, so they're a little salty. They taste like peppered pickles with a lot of salt. Don't eat them by themselves if you don't like them, but they go great in a dish. So you can always taste it, but realize that your job as a home chef is to counterbalance the straight flavor of a caper, because they're intense. They are super strong. I mean, you're not gonna sit there and just eat a bowl of capers, but like if you have salmon and lox, those have capers. They're in a lot of dishes, especially a lot of dated dishes from way back until the 70s. Capers were used a lot, and then they kind of died off. So everyone's like, "What is a caper?" I love them in spaghetti. Yeah, that's a great idea. It's almost the same thing as a lot of people put anchovies in their spaghetti, in the sauce. And it's the same basic flavor. An anchovy is the same basic flavor as a caper, without that fishy flavor. But yeah, great in everything really. Germans use capers. They'll do a schnitzel, and it has a piccata sauce on it, which is the lemon butter caper on a schnitzel. And we'll do those when we go into pork. I love schnitzel. I do. I love it. So we've got our capers ready. We got our lemon juice ready. We got our garlic ready. We got our butter ready. Now the last thing that I'm going to put on top of this, because I want to give it color, and also parsley. But I'm not going to chop up my parsley because it's an herb, and herbs don't go into the last, and they don't get chopped to the last. Remember, spices going first, herbs going last. So for this dish, we're only going to chop up that parsley right after we put it on the plate, because we want to hit it with that parsley, and then it needs to go out, or in your case, into the mouth, or in case you have somebody who you're making it for, over to that person. So you want that parsley to not do anything but get cut and eaten as fast as possible. Don't leave it sit there, because it turns black and it starts to release that gas trying to protect itself, and it has a weird flavor to it. So my shrimp's drying out. I got some sage today. I got in those little packets because I like sage. I do a lot. I love sage. It's not necessarily a standard piccata, but I'm going to do some little fried sage to go on top. So you can take sage leaves and you can actually fry them, and they turn really crispy. But you got to be careful, because they go from crispy to burnt in about a second. So I got my little sage leaves we're going to fry up for decoration. This would be like the modern day curly parsley. But like I said, you got to be careful with these, because they'll go from cooked to burnt in just seconds. But if you cook them perfectly, then they have a nice crispy sage flavor to them. So I got my little sage leaves. All I'm doing is pulling them off of the spice, which is the stem. And I'm only going to fry up a couple. I like sage. I do. I like it in a lot of food. I wish I found tarragon. I wouldn't have fried the tarragon, but I certainly would have put it on the dish, because remember, any seafood and tarragon are like peanut butter and jelly. You can use the stem right here as a flavoring agent but the piccata sauce goes so fast that this isn't going to do much in the way of a piccata sauce. But you can save this and throw it into a soup, which would be great, because any type of stem from a plant in a soup is amazing. Lemongrass, you can get the stem from the root of a lemongrass, throw that in there. These stems, all of this stuff, and it just smells amazing. It's just, you can't beat fresh herbs. If you're trying to make a dish and it says, at the end, put on basil, and then it says, or use dry basil, don't cheat yourself because of all the hard work you put into your dish. Don't do it. Just go get some fresh herbs, and you'll see a mile of difference. So you bloom your spices, and then you use fresh herbs in the end. And it makes your dishes so much different. Yeah, I love tarragon. In seafood, there's no better herb than tarragon. Yes, just eat Honey Nut Cheerios with tarragon. Don't forget, James. Make Honey Nut Cheerios with tarragon. You'll love it. So I also got some little baby tomatoes. These are grown in San Antonio. They're darker than normal tomato. I just want to put a little bit of color into my dish. So I'm just going to cut them like this. That's all I'm really doing with them. But I want to have them ready. So I'm going to mise en place my tomatoes. These are really sweet, which will be great to counteract all of the bitterness from the capers and they're just pretty. They're just a pretty tomato. I think they're really. I'm going to vote UB on Food Network's Chopped. Oh, thank you so much, James. I don't know about that, because I don't think food is a spectator sport. I think food is a passion, and to me, those some of those things get a little bit out of hand, and you miss the simplicity of the dish, and you miss the simplicity of the food. Food is like a romantic thing to me. That's why I love it so much, because it's so personal, and their shows become a little bit too commercial. If that's right, you don't want to make a lamb dish with cotton candy. Exactly. I don't think anyone does. That's disgusting. So I appreciate it, James, but man, I would just like to like I said, I'm doing this because maybe one person's going to see something I'm doing. It's going to change the way they cook for better, and then I'm happy. That's really all I'm on here for. So I got my mise en place. I've got my butter. I got my lemon juice. I got my garlic. I got my capers, and I got my little tomatoes for the finish. And I've got my sage, or my sage. Oh, and the other thing is, if you have sage, like fresh sage like this, and you put it in a pan with a little tiny bit of water, and you put it on the back of the stove, and you bring that sage up to just a slight simmer, and you start to smell sage. Sage is a natural relaxant, so it's actually a stress reliever. So a lot of time back in ancient, before colonial, they would actually burn sage in not just religious ceremonies, but they would literally put sage in the fires around like soldiers and stuff like that, because it's a natural relaxer. So I thought that was bigger. I like to burn it. Yeah, and it calms you down and it makes you mellow. So sage is a great. Wait, you don't have. Okay, I already read that. Idiot. So I got my sage. So you can sit there and smell sage and you'll feel better as a person. You just feel more mellow. I love it. I love fresh herbs. So anytime I get the opportunity to work with fresh herbs, I'm super excited. And yeah, you can burn them. You can get a sage candle. That's why sage candles are great. And a lot of times you go to get a massage and they'll have sage candles in there because it's a natural relaxant. It eats away your stress. The only stress I have right now is I don't know where. My frying pan got put. Where did I put my frying pan? Oh, there it is, right in front of my face. So, I've got my handy dandy frying pan. We didn't even get to, other than the little tomatoes, we didn't get to use our knife today. So we're going over to the stove. Gonna move this out of the way. Now, alright, stove's working. It's great. Camera on the stove's working. Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to melt our butter to make our piccata salad. So I'll explain what I'm doing in a minute. So we're just going to stick our butter in there. And then we're going to turn it on low, 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 low. We do not want this butter to boil. We do not want this butter to burn. We want it to be low, low, low. Okay? There's jewelry you can get to put sage oil in. Really? That's really cool. I didn't know that. That's a really cool idea. Yeah. Yeah, anything sage it's just a relaxing. It just makes you mellow out. It's like, calm down, man. Here's some sage. All right, hippie. So I get a little handy dandy. There's all my bowls. I was wondering where you guys went. Got my tomatoes. Those are cut. Now we're going to work on our pasta. Because first thing we're going to do for our pasta is we're going to put a pan to boil of water so that we can put our pasta in. Now, like I said, when this dish goes off, it's going to go off really fast. Because remember, all seafood. Oh, that's neat. I like that idea. All seafood is cooked to 135 degrees, not over 130. It doesn't matter what seafood it is. Once it reaches 135 degrees, it's cooked. Anything over that is overcooking. So anything like shrimp and stuff, the shrimp cooks so fast. And you see a lot of times people do those crab boils. Yes, blowfish. Actually, I have a story about blowfish. Blowfish. I lived in Hawaii. I went to high school in Hawaii, and we just moved there. And my dad, we lived on right at the mouth of Pearl Harbor, and there was a little bay off to the side. My dad had some fishing poles that got brought with us. So I'm going to go down there and fish. So I go down there, and I'm sitting on the rocks, and we're fishing in this canal, or I'm fishing in this canal, down there by myself. No idea. I'm just like, I'm going to pull out some fish. So I'm sitting there with these little 14-pound test fishing poles, and all of a sudden I get a bite. I reel it in, and I pull it out of the water, and it's a fish. I look at this fish, and I have no idea what kind of fish this is. So I don't know. So I'm like, oh well, I'll put it behind me, and then once I'm done, I can go take it and show somebody, and they'll be like, that's edible or it's not edible. So I didn't have a fish hook. I didn't have anything like that. So I went and I found a trash bag. I scooped water into it, and I put the fish in there, and I tied it shut, and I set it behind me in the water on the rocks, because I was sitting on lava rocks. And then I'm sitting there and I'm fishing again, and about 5, 6, 10 minutes later, all of a sudden I hear this sucking sound behind me. It's like, I was like, what the heck's that sound? And I'm looking around. I was like, I have no idea what that sounds like. I thought maybe the water was coming under the lava or something, making a weird sound. And I looked behind me, and there was a freaking puffer fish in my bag. It was like this big. It had sucked all the water out of the trash bag. And it was all pissed off. I was like, holy shit, I can't eat that. That scared me to death. So yeah, that's my blowfish story. I was like, whoa! So, yeah, I know. I'm glad I didn't get stung. Yeah, there are places that make blowfish, but you gotta take out the, I don't think it's worth the risk of eating it, because I don't want to die. And basically it paralyzes you, and then paralyzes your throat, which means you can't breathe or swallow, and then you just sit there and it's not good. It is not good. So I don't mess with blowfish. I don't think legally you can cook blowfish and serve it without a license. I think you have to have a license. I don't even think you can do it in the United States. I could be wrong. Can't imagine it's delicious enough. I know. I can't imagine that blowfish is so amazing that you're willing to risk dying for it. I'm sorry. That's out of bounds. So, I got my handy dandy KitchenAid. All these things are handy. Handy dandy KitchenAid. I don't know, I'm gonna have to probably adjust the camera so you guys can see this. But right now you don't have any view of anything I'm showing you. So we're gonna adjust the camera real quick. I'm gonna unravel it. Plug it in. It might be on. It might be on. It is. Sorry about that. Let's adjust the camera. Which camera are we gonna adjust? Let's adjust the table camera. Ooh, there we go. Perfect. It's pretty good right there. I'm going to readjust that when we go back to it. But basically, you can get these little parts. Amazon has them. There's a compressor, which the compressor one has numbers here on the end. It goes from 1 all the way up to 8. And most of your pastas are ideally between 6. And if you're doing like a lasagna, I usually do it at a 5. So 5, 6, or 7 is usually the great number to be in. But you always start out on 1. Okay, because that's the most open one. So we're going to remove this end piece. We're going to now make sure that you get this there's a little tab right here. And if you don't have that in the little slot where the little lid goes, that thing will sit here and spin. I did a pasta class for a culinary school. I went in and taught the kids there how to use this machine. And sure enough, a girl tightened it, but she didn't tighten that little set screw down. And it worked its way out, and it just started flapping the whole thing, and all her pasta was flying everywhere. So make sure that that's tight. And against the right here, in the hilt, and then tighten that little thing so this thing does not spin around. Because then you just panic because you don't know what's going to happen. So you turn it on, the little rollers start rolling. Okay? Yes, pasta fireworks. And she just looked at me like I did something wrong. Like, she just froze. So I think she actually turned it up because she panicked. So that was fun. I gotta turn my butter up a little bit because it ain't doing nothing. So we got our pasta. It's ready. It's nice and evenly moist. And then I didn't roll it into a ball because it's got to be flattened out anyway to go through the pasta machine. So as soon as I can figure out how to open up freaking saran wrap, then I would get into here and make some. What was the worst cook you have come across? What was it? That's a good question. I have to think about this. I gotta do it. Let me see. The worst thing that anyone has ever cooked in front of me, and it was always, you know what? It was, truthfully, it was always the culinary students that I would go and teach. Like, I used to have to judge culinary competitions because I worked at a convention center that did the STARS program for the kids, and they had a culinary branch. So all these kids would come in and they would make dishes, and some of it was just they wanted it so bad. You felt so bad for them because they would just really want it so bad. But they just made some flat unedible dishes. You just couldn't eat it. Either it was burnt or it was raw, and it wasn't like, just not taste good, but it's like poisonous. So every time we had to do those competitions, me and the other judges, because it says in there, if you don't want to eat it, you don't have to. Yeah, so it was one of those, and you always didn't want to refuse the kid, but there's some, it was just bad. It was just, so I would say ultimately it was always those competitions that we would have to go judge. And it was always those kids that wanted it so bad. And it's like, you should go be a welder. You'll be a great welder. So, that were always sad days. So I got my little thing. I got it set on 1. I'm going to move this over. I'm going to move the camera over there. That there. There we go. That'll work. So we got that set up. Oh, that's really good vision right there. Okay, so we're going to turn it on. It's on 1. I hope you guys can hear me over this, so I'll talk a little bit louder. I once saw a guy bake a cake that ended up looking like a bowl filled with butter. Oh my God. So, there it is. That's only a piece of it. It's about half of it. I just smashed it out a little bit so it will fit through the little part of the... We're going to start it, and it's on 1. So we're going to feed it in, and we're going to slowly push down. Okay, then we're going to take it and only fold it in half. No more than half. Just one time, just fold it in half. And let's shove that back in. Get back in there. Okay, fold that in half, and then we run it back through on 1. We've got to make a disc out of this on 1 first, before we go any further. Fold it in half, run it back through on 1. So I'm not adjusting my size until I get, and what this is doing is it's putting that final touch on the water to pasta ratio. Fold it in half. Now it's about the same size as the... Now if you're getting like these goofy ends like this, I usually just fold them like just into the pasta, because I'm looking for a perfect square is what I'm looking for. That's really good. So that's 1. And I'm not changing my numbers. Wow, you burnt a hole through a Rachel Ray pan. Wow. Well, those pans aren't, they aren't they aren't the best as far as thickness is concerned, but that's an effort. That's an effort to be proud of. This KitchenAid is old, so it's probably going to start squeaking on us.
Wow, on an electric stove.
Wow, that's dedication. Remember, fold it in half. We're staying on 1. Fold it in half. Fold it in half. You did it. Hey Josh, how's it going? Welcome to making pasta. Making homemade fresh pasta. Found out Cherry can burn holes through pans, so that's good. Is that, I don't know what kind of skill set. How was your honey shop? Honey shopping was great. Yeah, it was great. No, actually, I don't have any. I don't have any, because for those who don't know, we went to a farmer's market on Saturday to get some. We just wanted to check it out, bring you guys along, and I did not remember that my ex-wife's best friend has a booth there. So I walked up, like, oh shoot, we were on camera, and he's a beekeeper, he's a bee master. I don't know what they're called. Are they called bee masters or beekeepers? But he sells honey, and it's really good honey. So I was actually, I don't have any ill feelings towards him or towards my ex-wife. So it was really, beekeeper. So it was actually nice to see the guy, because he's a really super nice guy. So I had I wanted to buy honey from him because he's got really good honey. But it was Keeper, I used to have 2 hives. Okay. Alright, so beekeeper. Got it. So our pasta is now squished down to ones. So these are our ones. And if you make it right, it's not overly dry. And this is something, now I've tried this, I've tried to freeze these, and it doesn't work. They get slimy when they thaw out. So you kind of have to make pasta. You can stick this in the refrigerator, but again, unless you seal it really well. Was the best honey. It's great getting hundreds of pounds of honey a year for free. Yeah, no doubt. What? Give us. Oh, look at that. My Nightbot showed up. Hello, Nightbot. Welcome to the chat. Nightbot. So, we've got our pasta. Nice big flat pieces of number ones. And like I said, you can do this on a roller too. I know, James, you hate my bot. You can do this on a hand roller, but woo, that's a lot of energy and effort. So if you like to make homemade pasta, I would suggest investing in this. You have a KitchenAid. They have the crank ones too that you clamp to the countertop. The only downside to those is you don't have a third hand. So you're always cranking and then you're feeding, and then the other stuff is coming out the bottom and it's doing this. It's not as easy as this. This is the easiest way to do it. I do raviolis with a roller. Never again. Yeah, it's, like I said, this can make it, once you roll this out to about an 8, you can make a ravioli by putting filling in it and just folding it in half and pressing them out. And they actually have a ravioli attachment for this too that was just, I've never got it to work very well because I just think everything kind of goes everywhere. But it's supposed to make ravioli out of the bottom. But I always just do the flat sheets, and then I'll take them and I'll put a dab of the ravioli filling, and then just fold it over, and then use that little I don't even know what it's called, that little diamond wheel to cut it out with. So we got our ones down. They're nice and dry, nice and set up. Now they're gonna get exponentially longer as we put them through, obviously, because they're gonna get stretched out. So we got to make them to where they're within decent range. So we probably want them about a foot long in the end when we run them through the linguine press. So once we start putting this through on the next levels, I meant fresh. What is the easiest pasta dish to make without a machine?
Spatzel.
Yeah, spatzel. That's easy. That's just basically. It's like a thick pancake batter, and I found that if you use a small colander, that it doesn't go everywhere. Because that's the worst part about spatzel is that you start to make it, and then it ends up on your shirt, and it ends up all over the stove. It ends up everywhere, just because that's the nature of the beast. But if you can keep it under control as you're putting it into the boiling water through a colander. I just like to put small amounts at a time because you can get it in there quick enough to where it will cook evenly. But if you put a whole thing in there, you're going to have it everywhere. It gets on everything. So I've got my nice pasta. Now I'm going to turn it down, and the drop between 1 and 2 is pretty big. So now I'm going to roll out a 2 on the same thing. And that's why I do all of my ones at once. I do my ones, and then I come back and I do my 2s. And if it does that, like it did right there, where it kind of tore off the end, that's fine. We'll set that aside. That ain't gonna hurt nobody. So there's my 2. Now my 2 through here. Next 2. And then run my next 2. The machine pretty much does all the work for me. So there's my 2s. And then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna start doing. Now you can actually, let me shut this out so I can explain this. You don't have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The only reason you're doing that is because you may want a pasta that's thick, so you're gonna go to that number. But I found to save time, I usually jump 2 numbers, so I'm going from a 3 to a 5. Because remember, the bigger the number, the tighter the. So I went from a 3 to a 5. What's the next easiest without the mess? It's not, you can actually, you can use the same spatzel batter, and you can run it through a piping bag. But it tends to take longer because you're making each individual, and you can also make another good one, but it's not with pasta, is gnocchi, made out of potato. And it has the same qualities as a pasta. So there's my 5s. But spatzel's great, and yeah, ganache. You just have to be prepared for the fact that sometimes while you're doing it, you just have to stop. If you're doing spatzel, you just stop. You're just like, it's getting out of control, and you adjust. You adjust the amount that you're, because it easily gets out of control. And that's where it ends up all over the stove and your shirt, because you're putting it into the colander. Make sure the colander is smaller than the boiling pot, because you think it's going down the middle, but it's coming out the sides, and it's going. First time I ever made it, it was everywhere. It was everywhere. Okay, I've got my pasta rolled out. Now, if you can see, go to the main camera. This is started out as that, and now we've got this. We got this sheet of pasta, which this is if we were making raviolis, we would put it and we would fold it in half with the stuff inside, but we're not. We're making fettuccine, so we're going to take and cut to the length of fettuccine that we want. So I like mine to be relatively forkable. So I'm just going to cut it right there so that you have a nice, decent size. And then put that aside, grab the next one. Actually, you can just set them all on top of each other. And all you have to do is every now and then, to keep this stuff from sticking together, every now and then just rotate them. There you go, there's those. And then we're going to cut off this weird end right here. So there, I've got all my pasta set up. And then every now and then I'll come through and I'll just make sure they don't stick together. Now you can actually dry this pasta out, and you could dry it out and put it in the fridge, but if you freeze it, which I've tried to freeze this egg pasta, and it doesn't like to be frozen, it always tends to come back out, because by then whenever you freeze it, the water inside the pasta crystallizes, and then it creates these weird pockets inside the pasta. And when you go to thaw it out, it gets really slimy. So I just make it fresh every time I need it. It's super simple. It's easy to do. Yes, James, we started from the bottom, now we're here. Yes, Drake James. So now I've got my perfectly cut up pasta. Move this over here so I can show you guys. No, I'm moving it the wrong way. So I got these nice sheets. Look at those. They're beautiful. So now we went all the way to a 5 with that. And like I said, it's been 5, 6, and 7 is where we want it. If you're making like a delicate lasagna and like a vegetable or a seafood, and you got everything thin sliced, then I'm going to take my pasta sheets, because these are basically pasta lasagna sheets, but I'm going to take them up to a 7 and make them nice, really thin, so I can put a lot of them in there. But usually I'm like a normal hearty lasagna. Then I'm running this thing at about 5, maybe 6. So now I've got the linguine cutter, which looks like this. Does the same thing. It's like those grinders that you see people grinding up metal with. So we're gonna take our pasta, one sheet at a time, and do this exact same thing. We're feeding it into this. Now you can, as long as your bowl is dry, you can just feed these into a bowl. I have a spaghetti one, but I couldn't find it. I was going to do that. It was a angel hair pasta, but so we just wait and let the machine grab it. Okay. Beautiful, simple, easy. You can't. Right. We have the same reason you don't freeze cheese. But you can't beat fresh made pasta. Now, I worked for a gentleman. I was a personal chef for 6 years. And the gentleman I worked for, he loved expensive food. But for some reason, he didn't like homemade pasta. And some people don't, because they're so used to, the store-bought pasta. It's a different texture. It's a different flavor. It's lighter. And it just doesn't have that standard spaghetti noodle taste to it. So he would have me buy boxed pasta. And there's nothing wrong with boxed pasta, but this is just one of those basic skills that if you want to really put that fine-tune quality to a dish, you should at least try and make your own pasta. Because everyone freaks out. They're like, "You made what?" "Yeah, I made this pasta by scratch." I like it personally. One, it cooks really fast, so if you're in a pinch, a homemade pasta is really fast in and out of the water. You're gonna be shocked when we put it to the water, how fast this stuff cooks. So we're feeding all of our pasta. Give us the last guy. I hope you guys can hear me. Feeding it in. It's beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay. That's it. Oh, look at that. Oh, that's beautiful. Pasta. Simple, simple. We're going to plug this and get this off my cutting board now, because we are done with that. Oh, and it specifically says on these, do not submerge in water, or immerge. Do not put these under water, because they'll rust on the inside and there's no way to clean them. Usually when you buy them, they come with a little brush, but you can wipe this down with a damp rag, and you could spray it down with a mild detergent. But don't soak them in water, and don't run them through the dishwasher unless you want to waste the amount of money that you just spent on them. So, now we have our pasta. We have, oh, I gotta fix my camera. This be good? Yes. We got our pasta. Now again, we got our lemon juice, we got our garlic. Our shrimp should be just about dry. I'll take this paper towel off and let the shrimp dry a little bit more with a little air. Got my tomatoes, and if you look on the stove, my butter's melted. Yay, butter! So my butter's almost ready to go. So what I like to do, because now I have to, this is all going to happen really quick. I got my water. I'm going to start my water on the stove. Remember, the only time we turn the stove on high is to boil water and to mallard something like steaks or what I'm going to do today. That's the only time you should use. I know, James, Apple Watch sucks. I know. Don't be making fun of my Apple Watch. I know. I'm going to have a tomato. Or put a lot. I love tomatoes. I know that wasn't the facial expression I just gave you, but I do love tomatoes. We never seed boil
For food.
Oh, that's right. Well, that's when we stick stuff in it. But we do need to get the water boiling, but we just don't boil food. That's correct. I hate that word. It's just an unattractive word. So now that my butter has melted, what I'm going to do with it is I'm going to take me a handy dandy bowl and I'm going to add, let's do this. Just got it to where it's nice and boiled. So I melted my butter. Now I have a pan that's coated in butter, which is great because that's what I need to saute my shrimp off in. Because instead of putting oil in there, because a lot of people put olive oil, which is great, but I'm going to add probably a little bit of olive oil just to keep it from burning, because now I have a low smoke point because all I'm using is butter with a little bit of fat in it. So my smoke point's probably low, but I don't want a lot. I want that clean lemon flavor, or that clean shrimp flavor, so olive oil always tends to get in the way. But remember, it's a French-Italian dish, so we're going to just take a little bit of olive oil in there, and that's just to fry off our so if you look at the stove, pow, that's all I've got. I got a nice even layer of olive oil, but mostly butter, and then I've got this nice dish of butter right here, and like I said, I've got my lemon juice. Now when that comes up to temperature, we're going to fry off our sage. It's right here. We're going to fry off our sage, and then we're going to add the garlic to that sauce, and then we're going to take and put the shrimp in there, and then all we're looking for is that shrimp to get, because we're just going to cook this, take this back out, then we're going to do our shrimp, because I want that shrimp to be piping hot. Because, and then I got, like I said, down below you'll see that the tools that we use, I've got this on there. This thermometer that I told you that's very super important. It's a thermocouple thermometer. It will read accurate temperature within like 4 seconds. So it's super important, especially with shrimp, because it's going to cook so fast. By the time we stick this in there, we have to know a temperature. And those other ones, like the stick ones and the other electric ones, if it's not a thermocouple thermometer, those things can take up to 4 minutes to read accurately. So that's a lot of wasted time. And then I'm going to show you another way to deal with shrimp and see if it's cooked or not. So, here we go. I'll wash my hands. I haven't done that in a little bit. I always try and remember to recycle my hands to give them a wash. Yay! So, they are not contaminated. But I haven't touched anything to be contaminated with. So I got my pan on. I got the oil on. Look over here. Hey, look over here. What? Explain what you're making. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I made fresh made pasta. So we finished that. There's our fresh made pasta. We are making a shrimp piccata because Rex's birthday is today, and Rex said he was going to come watch my stream so that he could see me. And I asked him what dish did he want, and he said make me something with shrimp. So I make him a shrimp piccata. So we made fresh made pasta because this is our pasta and grains week. So we went through and explained how to make the pasta, and then I melted some butter because piccata is it's a term that means something that's filleted and fried, and then a sauce is put on it. And it's usually a lemon butter caper sauce. And I explained what capers were, which are the bud of the caper plant, or the flower, unbloomed flower of a caper plant. And they taste like a sardine, sardine without the fish flavor. And they're peppery, and they're like little pickles. And those are amazing, and that's why. Oh, that's okay. I don't mind going back over it. And then I cut up some fresh tomatoes so that we had a little bit of color and contrast in the dish. And then we thin sliced some garlic, and that's kind of, hey, there's Rex. Happy birthday, Rex. We're halfway through your meal. Nice of you to show up for it. So this is Rex's birthday meal. Everyone wish him a happy birthday. So my pan is about right where I want it. I can actually smell the olive oil. And that's something else. Whenever you cook, always utilize all your senses. So you smell and taste and you hear. So I'm going to take one of these little sage guys. I'm going to put it in the oil and see where I'm at. But I think I'm about, yep. It's just barely, remember, sage goes from cooked to burnt in a matter of seconds. So you got to really, this is like something I like to do. This is a graduating type thing, like basic cookery. This isn't probably where you're at, only because this is tricky. Because either it's soggy or it's fried. And the nice thing about sage is if you put the dark side down, then the leaf just lays flat. So I'm just sitting here, saging up my little sages. And it smells amazing. It really does. And these make like little sage chips, like a big, huge burst. And if you don't want to do this, they actually sell sage chips. Like if you go to the organic grocery stores, they sell these, and all they are is fried sage, is all it is. So all I'm looking for is to go right to that point where it's not going to be soggy, and then 2 seconds later, you'll go right into burnt. See how that one sizzles up nicely? I think you can see it. Make my butter in the middle. I'm going to move this around a little bit. Oh, that smells amazing. That sage is done. And I put the olive oil in there to avoid the butter from burning, but I want that little bit of, I don't mind the fact that the butter's a little bit toasted because we're doing the garlic and I'm looking for color. Hope you guys can hear me. So that sage right there is done. So we put it, I'm just going to set it over here and let it do its thing. And you just watch and you'll see they'll get darker, but you want to get them out before they turn brown. Because brown is when they burn and then they taste like cigarette ash. Cigarettes. It tastes like cigarette ashes. Nobody likes to eat a cigarette. What's up, Gab? Oh, Gab's in here too. Wow. I got a party. Got a whole party and shit. Everyone's in there. Whose birthday's April? My birthday was April 1st. Where's my meal? Was it really, James? Well, April. Jesus, that was like, that's before I met you. Those birthdays don't count. I know I'm an a-hole, but those birthdays don't count. So, sage is done. I'm taking my garlic now, and now I told you this is gonna go quick. So I put my garlic in. This is one of those things where I dried out my shrimp because when I do this, I need to add a little bit of butter back to this. Not a lot, just a little bit. Listen to that. Beautiful. Oh, you should smell this garlic. Now, I'm going to take my shrimp and I'm going to lay that shrimp in there one at a time. That butter I just put in there to kind of calm my pan down a little bit, but you can start to hear the shrimp make its noise. And because I have butter in there, I can't really crank this up or it will burn it, but I gotta get all the shrimp in here as fast as I can get it in there. And I don't want them touching, okay? So I don't want that garlic to overcook. So I'm kind of putting the shrimp on top of the little piece of the garlic so that they stay protected. You can hear it starting to rock out, starting to pop. Ow, I bumped myself. Ow, I bumped myself. Now with shrimp, I don't know if you guys ever cooked shrimp, but remember, we're only cooking it to 135 degrees. So this is not going to take long. A good way to tell the shrimp, they say that the letter O is an overcooked shrimp and the letter C is a cooked shrimp. So if you look at the shrimp, it'll start to shrink tail to tip. And when it turns into an O, that means that it's time to turn it over. 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 So my water for my pasta is just about ready. You're just looking for a little bit of the translucent color to go away in the shrimp. Garlic smells amazing. That's a good looking shrimp right there. That's a good looking shrimp. And that's also a good looking shrimp. Now I'm going to take a little bit, once I flip these, like I said, it's not going to take long to cook these. Shrimp is super fast. All I'm trying to do is get them turned over. I haven't put in the fancy shrimp yet for the decorative part of it. This is the edible part. So I'll push these all to one side. Try and keep them from touching. And then I'm going to push the frying pan. If you watch, I'm going to push it most of the way off the heat. So the only part of my frying pan that's actually getting a lot of heat is here. And these aren't getting so much heat. And by pushing it off, it makes the burner flare up on an electric stove. So you actually get a nice burst of heat for these special shrimp. These are the Rex birthday shrimp going on right now. Rex's birthday. It's Rex's birthday. My water's boiling. So I'm going to turn that down a little bit. And then I just want to tend to these shrimp. They're beautiful. They are beautiful. Now I'm going to turn over my fancy shrimp. They're beautiful. Beautiful. Let me know if somebody says something in chat.
They're just talking to each other.
Oh, okay, cool. Rex is, why are you upset, Rex? Okay, these shrimp, I'm going to take my thermometer and I'm going to check the temperature of my shrimp. And we are at 135 degrees. The shrimp is done. So we're going to take it and set it aside. Remember, 135 degrees, that shrimp is done. Anything over that is overcooked seafood. So we need to get that shrimp out of there. So whenever you see those people that do those like shrimp boils and they boil it all day long and it sits in there and it's like eating pieces of tire, that's because they just flatly overcook the shrimp. There's no way around it.
Awesome.
What?
You made Rex's day.
Did I?
Yep.
Why?
He did. His birthday's been boring, but
Aw.
this is Beta's day.
Good. Well, I'm glad, Rex. That's why I did this. I'm glad you showed up for it, too. So now I've got my pan. Okay. Now I'm going to make my piccata sauce. So the first thing I want to do is put a little handy dandy chicken broth in there. That's what it's called. It's called handy dandy chicken broth. Now my pan isn't super hot, but the reason it flares up like that is because chicken broth is mostly water. So whenever it hits the pan, it's going to make that loud noise. Then it'll immediately cool down. So now I got my beautiful, sexy butter and chicken broth. I want to bring that to a simmer because I want to reduce that just a little bit so that whenever you put it all together, you're not dealing with a lot of water. So I'm going to let that reduce a little bit, and now I'm going to get back to my pasta water, which is ready. Now watch how fast this pasta cooks. You guys will be amazed. Fresh, homemade, look at this. Look, Rex, I made you fresh, homemade, oh, I can't see, hang on. Fresh, homemade pasta, straight from Auntie Kevin's kitchen. Not anti-Kevin. I had no idea, but he'd eat like, what? What is your, what is this?
Talking about you.
What is the shrimp, or what was in the shrimp?
Your allergy.
No, man, I ate some shrimp and my lips started tingling. It started to itch. And my throat started to itch. So I just stopped eating shrimp because I know that's a mild allergy. Okay, my chicken stock's ready. Now this is quick. I'm gonna put my butter into my stock. Okay. Now I'm gonna take a spoon. What I want to do here is I want to put a little bit of red pepper flake in there. Just for fun. Just for festivities. I'm gonna take my lemon juice. Ooh, my voice cracked. Puberty! Going through puberty, guys. This the day of Rex's birthday. I finally went through puberty. So I'm gonna take my lemon juice and I'm gonna ladle it in until the flavor is right. So that's all lemon juice is for, is flavor. It doesn't do anything. If anything, it will start to break your fat. So you taste it. It's hot. That's good. I like that. So we put pasta in the water. You guys watching this? I told you this goes fast. Look at that sauce. I'm turning the sauce off, taking it off the heat. I'm gonna leave it set back there. Now you notice I didn't throw the shrimp back in there because the shrimp is done. And all I'm gonna do to finish this, bring it back on the heat, put my capers into it, and then let them simmer for a few seconds, and then we throw it all together. This is one of those timing dishes. Look at those sage leaves. Look at those. Where are you at? Look at those sage leaves. Look at that. Look at that. They're like little crispy sage bites. But it tastes exactly like sage. Overcooked, it tastes like burnt tire. So we're gonna mix up our pasta. If you notice, none of this dish has salt in it. I have not put 1 ounce of salt in anything I've done. Because salt doesn't go in until the end. That's just the way salt is. You do not put salt in a dish until the very end. And you want to do it so that they get that flavor of salt. That they don't, it's not, the food isn't salty. This flavor of salt is the initial taste, and then it gets out of the way for the flavor of the food. And this pasta's done. Let me double check it. I'm gonna eat these. Yeah, it's done. Al dente, which means to the teeth, which means it has to have a little bit of bite to it. No, I use unsalted butter. Cherry's like, but I got salt in it. No, this is unsalted butter. Cherry trying to trip me up. That's okay. I got you. I got you covered. He only uses unsalted butter. to cook. Oh my gosh, everyone's figured out my secrets. So I hope Rex is still in here because we're about to do his plate up. And then Rex is gonna have a great day for the rest of the day. I'm sorry, Rex, you don't get to eat this. I really am. I think Gab Tilla said she's gonna eat it in your honor. So that's nice of her, I think. She said it kind of vindictively, but you know, whatever. Now I'm gonna take my pasta and I'm gonna throw it into my bowl that had my butter in there. And I'm just gonna swirl it around just to get it ready. Okay? Look at that. That pasta took what? 45 seconds to cook? Homemade pasta cooks so fast that you have to dedicate your time to it, that you know that it's going to cook super fast. Because the first time I made homemade pasta, I was like, oh, I'm going to put the pasta in like normal pasta. It would take some time to cook. No, it was done. It was done as fast as... When I make like big lasagnas, I have to assembly align the pasta into the water, and then I roll another one out, and then I change them out. And I take the ones that are cooked, I take them out, because they cook so fast. So we're going to put our piccata sauce back on the stove. I'm going to taste it one more time. I don't think this dish is getting any salt anywhere, honestly. I don't think it needs it. So we're going to taste our piccata, which is beautiful. That's good. Okay. We're going to bring this up to a slight simmer. Okay. Lemon's good. Then we're going to add our capers. And remember, there's the caper juices in there too. So we're going to add our capers to it. Oh, I put a little bit of, will you give us the gifts? Oh, that's me. I always read that. My bot always wants me to read. My bot's hungry. You look in the camera, that's a piccata. It's got that buttery glossiness to it. And it's got, yes, capers have salt. Okay, Sherry, all right. There is salt, but I'm not going to put salt in this dish, okay? She's like, there's salt somewhere. There's salt in there somewhere. Yes. Capers have a ton of salt in them. That's why I'm not putting salt in it, because I'll let the capers do all the work. So, we're going to take our dish. I'm going to fried sage. Take a pretty dish. As soon as because the capers are cold, as soon as that comes up, then we're going to, we'll clean up a little bit. We're gonna decorate Rex's birthday shrimp piccata. I hope you guys are having fun. I'm so glad you guys came in. I really am. All I'm trying to do is get this to just simmer a little bit, just so the capers warm up. I'm not trying to cook anything. I'm just trying to bring it to a little bit of a warm simmer. So we'll wait on that. I'm not going to do any dishes. I got my shells. I got to freeze those. Do you guys have any questions or anything like that? Feel free, more free than ever, to just ask me questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. And like I said, if you like this and you know people that want to learn how to cook, I mean, like really learn how to cook, like not just follow recipes, but actually dig into the science and the history and the understanding of it, please tell them to come on over. Tell them to at least follow us. So, because we're eventually going to touch all bases of all subjects over a course of time, so that you're able to see the bigger picture. You're not just bound by a recipe, that you can actually be creative in the kitchen, and you'll have the chance to do stuff that's beyond what you're used to doing and be comfortable knowing how to do it. So if you get the opportunity, please tell your friends and your enemies. All right, if you look, my caper sauce is beautiful. So I'm going to put my shrimp back in it just to combine the dish. Give that a little toss. Now shut that off. I'm going to bring that over here and let you see this. Look at that. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that simple dish Just beautiful. That makes me happy. I didn't want to wreck Rex's dish, so I spent a little bit more time getting it ready and preparing it. Okay, I'm going to take our pasta and I'm going to plate my pasta in the middle of the plate. There's a little pasta in the middle. So I'm so glad you guys came in here. I hope Rex is still in here. I don't know if he is, but if you are, Rex, this is for you. This is Rex's birthday shrimp piccata. Fancy plating. I hope so. That's something that always turns out, and it has a lot to do with the product. Plating is always a victim because you can't plate soup. That's what I've always been told. You can make it look nice, but you can't plate soup. So it really depends on your effort and the energy you put into it. So I'm going to put some shrimp up here because it's a shrimp dish. So we're going to give him lots of shrimp. Lots of imaginary shrimp for Rex because he's not here. Or he's not physically here. So I can't do much for him. Put my fancy shrimp aside. I think I'm gonna roll these out to the edge like this. Yes? Yeah, like that. These are the cooked shrimp. And more from there. Like I said, that's about 2.5 persons. Now I'm gonna take the shrimp that I cooked that have the tail on it, and all I want to do is they're hot too, so you gotta do this quick. Just marry those together, pull them like that, and we'll put that in the middle there. And we're gonna do the same thing to these hot. It's hot. It's hot shrimp, hot. Put that one here. Wait, it's backwards. There we go. No, there we go. Put that one here. Okay. Then we're going to take our tomatoes. And we're going to put our tomatoes on the plate. Just kind of throw those around. Hope you guys are enjoying my skillful plating skillfuls. The tomatoes are nice in this because it gives it that burst of fresh tomato flavor. So it helps with that idea that this is actually an Italian adaptation of the French dish, which is what it is. So, and then we just take, now, right now, the piccata, remember, because oil and water do not like to sit together, so I have to spoon out an even amount of oil, and so I tilt it to the side like this, and I go deep with that, because I want to pick up a lot of that flavor from the pan. I don't want to just dump it on top, put some. But that's what I'm trying to do, is get down in there and get some of that piccata juice out of there. Or the butter. Because the top of it's mainly water and the bottom is that butter fat. So that's what I'm trying to reach to, is that butter fat. Just keep spooning it until you see it more on the outside. On the outside. Looks real good. I'm sorry you can't eat this, Rex. I wish you were here. Then you'd be like, why am I in a white man's house? And I'll be like, eat your piccata and shut up. Shut up. I'm going to spread out the little piccata, or the little capers, the little flower buds that are capers. Then, that is Anna's. Because I have to feed Dana or he'll never come back.
That's true.
Now, we're going to take our sage leaves. They're like little crispy. We'll put our sage leaves on top of our dish. I'm just going to put 3. Like that. Sage leaves. Sage leaves. Sage leaves, move my other sage leaves. I'll leave these for Dana, so you can also have sage leaves. So that's how awesome that is. Then all I need to do is take my parsley. Right here. We're just going to pull off it. Remember, parsley is an herb, so we put that in at the end, because all of our herbs go in at the end. So we'll pull off our little parsley leaves, just a couple, just a little dab. We're going to put that little tree right there. Somebody told me I sound like Bob Ross, and I'm trying to do the Bob Ross thing for you guys, because make you feel better about watching me do my thing. Okay, now I'm going to chop up my parsley. Remember, the minute this knife goes through this parsley, it starts to go bad. So you got to chop it and serve it. So all we're doing is doing a couple good cuts through this. Nothing fancy, nothing major. We want enough of it to show up, but we don't want you to have a whole mouthful of parsley. So we're just doing a little chop up with the chopping blade at the back of the knife. And we're just going to sprinkle it around the outside. Oh, that looks good. All right, folks. That is the Rex birthday. Yeah, cilantro will work too. It's just about your own personal taste. A lot of people don't like parsley just because, I mean, fresh parsley, like out of your garden, isn't the same stuff as what you get at the grocery store. The stuff they make at the grocery store now is super resilient so that it can make it through the shipping. So it's almost like curly leaf parsley. It's starting to get really out of control as far as the toughness of the parsley. So let me try and make a light adjustment. Parsley doesn't taste like anything to me, really. Yeah, it tastes like lawnmower grass to me. So we're in the same boat. I don't know where's the best light for that. Is that good? Is this good? Is this good? Or you can turn this away. No, that's too dark. Parsley doesn't taste good. How about that? Can everyone see that? Can you appreciate what's sitting in front of you? I hope so. So what do you guys think? Are you gonna braid the lemon butter caper piccata sauce on chicken? It probably is, but I can't eat it because I can't eat shrimp. But, thank you, Dana. I appreciate that. That's just because Dana gets to eat some of it, and so he's like sucking up. I'm gonna take a picture, send it to. You guys can also check out the pictures of the food we make if you want to check those out, so that you can look at them and judge them and say that's not what that dish looks like. Would be nice. But you can see them in better light, really. I mean, like, look, you can see that. Where are you guys at? Where are you guys at? See that completely different looking dish? Yeah. Same exact dish, but you see with the phone, it's better, right? It wants to focus, see? So don't blame my crappy camera, because it's only a 720p, but it's way prettier in real life. That's for you, Rex. Birthday shrimp piccata with a little bit of tomato and some crispy sage, like little pieces of sage on top. So tomorrow, let me go over what we're going to be doing so you guys can get geared up for that. Tomorrow we're going to deal with store-bought pastas and kind of go into the whole, you know, are they as good as fresh made? And they also make fresh pasta in the grocery store. So we're going to get some of that too. And we're going to kind of give you an opportunity. Hey, Miss Molly Makes, how are you? Welcome to my humble abode. I appreciate you coming in. We have just finished up our shrimp piccata with toasted sage leaves and some small tomatoes, and it looks way better in person because I have a little crappy camera and it doesn't look very well. But if you go on I think we're posting them on Instagram. So if you go on Instagram, you can actually see this dish in a better picture than what it looks like here. But it looks amazing. And it probably tastes amazing, but I can't eat it because I'm allergic to shrimp. But there's plenty of people in this house that will eat the hell out of this. But this was for Rex's birthday. I asked Rex what he wanted, and he told me something with shrimp. So I made him a shrimp piccata with, maybe this camera looks better. Yeah, look at that. Look at it, folks. Look at it. It's a beautiful dish. So, back to what we're doing. So coming up tomorrow, like I said, we're going to be doing the store-bought pastas. So we're going to get a bunch of different shapes and sizes, because a lot of the pasta that you make for like rigatoni and stuff like that, you can't. They're not easy. You can get an extruder that fits on the front of the KitchenAid, but it tends to be more work than just buying dried pasta. And the dried pasta is easier to store. So it's fun to make as like a project, but if you have to feed more than 2 people, extruding pasta through a machine is a nightmare. It takes forever. Your KitchenAid gets all hot. It just wears stuff out much quicker than it should. So they have the extruders. I've got one that's like really nice, but it's just easier to buy your pre-made. And also they have the fresh pastas in the grocery stores. So I'm going to get some of that tomorrow too. And then we're going to kind of go over what kind of dishes we can make with the different shapes of pastas. Yeah, the refrigerated pasta is what I was talking about when I say fresh. Exactly. So you can use that, and if you want that fresh flavor, it's not the same as making it yourself, because I think that making it yourself is just like super like fresh, but it's as close as you can get. And then the ones the dry pasta, we'll go over the different shapes and sizes and what they're specifically designed to do. Because each pasta has something it's designed to do, whether it's hold sauce or trap stuff inside of it, so that when you eat it, you get that equal balance of whatever you put on it, plus the noodle. See, macaroni's, the reason there's holes in them is so it can hold on to a thicker sauce. And then the rigatoni on the outside is the ridges. That's to literally, those are sauce pockets, so it's to hold more sauce. And then what is it? I always forget the name of them when you stuff them. Help me out.
Cannelloni?
Cannellonis. Whenever you get the cannelloni noodle, then that's designed to be stuffed, and the outside's rigid to hold sauce, because you have to counterbalance with what you stuff it to what's on the outside. So that also determines the thickness of your sauce. It's not just, spaghetti and meatballs types of things. You've got to really look into the different shapes and sizes, and then hopefully, I'll probably start tomorrow, but I have to make pho, so it takes a while. It takes like consistently anywhere from 24 to 48 hours to make a really good pho. So I'll probably be making noodles to go with the pho, and then do some thin sliced beef to go with it, and some vegetables. Kind of tie back in some of the stuff we've already went over, and that's what I want to do with the pasta week. And I think that if we don't, because I know Friday we're doing cheesecakes, we're going to do dessert Fridays, and we're kind of trying to switch it up. We want to produce at least one meal every stream, so that we can implement what we're learning, so that we're not just going over, stuff. And then the week after that, if it bleeds over in the week after that, then we'll start doing grains like couscous and rice and all the grains that you don't really think about as being regional or history of those things. They just, rice is rice, and I eat it with this. You know what I mean? But there's all these different types of rices that are specific to certain types of dishes. And it's just building a library. It's building a repertoire of what you can and should do with the food around you, so that when you have something in front of you, like a piece of chicken that you're going to cook, you have all these other weapons that you can utilize to improve the quality of that dish. And it's never a recipe. It's not. You should always learn how to cook from your heart, and then from all the knowledge you acquire, and then your skill. It's always from the heart. And it's really hard to cook something from the heart if you're following a recipe. Now, recipes are great if you don't have that burning desire to make something from your own self and present it to somebody else. And that's what I'm here to try and do, is get you to want to make dishes that are like from the heart. Like, you just have this burning desire to make something for somebody from scratch without following somebody else's recipe, because you understand the knowledge it takes to make, like I said, homemade pasta, how long to cook the shrimp. If it's over 135 degrees, it's overcooked. These are all weapons that you can utilize to make your cooking more fun and more exciting, and also to make it more about you and not about somebody else's idea of what that dish should be. Because frankly, I guarantee you this dish has been made every way you can possibly think of. So it's not like they're gonna say, well, that's not a traditional, you know what I mean? Because the traditional went out whenever they started, basically the Industrial Revolution killed traditional cooking. Freezer cars killed traditional cooking because there was no need to cook that way. They romanticize it like, oh, they did that on purpose. No, they did that out of necessity. So we have all the tools of the world now to do whatever we want with our food. So let's spend our time and learn the history of it so that we can produce dishes that don't make us feel a burden to somebody else's ideas. That's my spew. That's what I like to say. Whenever somebody says, why do you do this? And I say, it's because I love it. I love making dishes. And I love that I don't follow recipes. And most really good cooks and really good chefs understand that. They understand that's where the power comes from. So, I don't even know how long I've been on. Let me check. 2 hours. That's a good stream. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to at least follow me so that you know when the next thing comes on. We're trying to be consistent, and we put out a schedule every Sunday, and it lists what we're going to be doing that day. And if you see something that's interesting to you and you're not doing anything, swing on by. You know, talk to me, ask me questions, and then, you know, follow us. It would be great. And so that we can do this together. And then all of our videos are down there. They're in numerical order, so it's 001, 002. If you missed anything, you can always go back and check out the 5 mother sauces that we started with. And then we went to vegetables, and then now we're on to pastas and grains. And then we're going to start doing the proteins, the chicken and the beef and the seafood. And then we're going to go into countries. And then we're going to go into regions. And then every month we're going to change the country to a different country. And then in that whole month we're going to spend all our time in all the different regions of that country. Utilizing the skill of already making the grains and the pastas, utilizing the skill of making the beef and the pork and the chicken, and then utilizing the vegetable skills we've already learned. So it's a big process. It's like getting a culinary degree for nothing, because I'm offering you to this just out of my own passion for food. But I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. I hope you come back, please. You know, we can share this. If you see things or you want to know stuff or you have questions, because I always like to answer the question, why? Why do you do that? Not that it needs to be done, because you see a lot of people that do cooking shows and they never ask that question to the audience. Why am I doing this? They only say, add this to this, then do this, and then do that. You should always ask, why do you do that? Because that's where skill comes from. Skill comes from knowledge. And if you can't answer the questions of why, then you're just basically mimicking somebody else showed you. You always should look for that answer, why. So I really appreciate you guys coming by. I'll give you some finger guns. But that's it. You guys have a good night, and we out.